pre-I.O. this year, so we have Google I.O., but pre-I.O., we had an Android-specific 15 or so minute live stream from Google where they went over some Android 16 updates. Yeah. They went into Material 3, expressive. They went into some new Gemini features. Thoughts and opinions.
Many thoughts and opinions.
I think my first thought was I was wishing it'd be longer.
Yeah.
Like I was hoping getting this a week early. I was excited for it because it felt like maybe IO's realized it's going to be AI focused. Let's give the people what they want on the Android side and let's have an event. Like it didn't feel like an event.
No, totally. It was like a shorter, it was about 22 minutes and they did a little...
felt shorter.
Yeah, they did a little... But also a thing at the very end where they brought Dieter out, which is kind of an homage just specifically for people who care about this stuff to the level that we care about it. They introduced some new stuff that will be in Android 16, and then also some new design elements and some new stuff for cars and whatever. But it's all like later this year, which is very nebulous.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reason they're doing this is because all of I.O. is going to be Gemini. But the funny thing is, half of this was Gemini.
This has kind of happened with an Apple keynote before, maybe 1 or 2 years ago, where they had a section that they essentially cut out of the main keynote and it came at a separate time.
Yeah.
This feels like, oh, wow, we have an hour to give people about Gemini AI. Why don't we just take the Android stuff out and publish it for the Android audience who wants to see that?
Right.
So now we saw it.
Yeah.
It's a couple neat things here and there, some new rounded corners and bold looks, and obviously the stuff that we talked about last week. You know the thing that caught my eye that was interesting? I tweeted about this.
I missed it.
Well, we were working on a video about this, but they keep doing this thing where they will use a Samsung phone to demo all of the new Android features. And I hadn't tweeted about this in a while, so I did. I put it on Threads, I put it on Twitter. And I got all kinds of different explanations as to why they're doing this. I had maybe 2 or 3 things in my head. I got maybe 7 or 8 people that were very sure about why Google keeps doing this.
And they're all wrong.
And I think they're all kind of right in a way. Like if you combine them all.
That's true.
There's people saying, look, people recognize Samsung phones as Android phones, so this is a no-brainer for them. It's a good collab. People were saying, oh, Samsung paid them to do that and just put it on stage in front of people, which I don't necessarily know if that's true, but maybe they have a
there was that report that went out recently that Samsung pays Google an enormous sum of money to put Gemini on Galaxy phones.
So they have a relationship.
I mean, they obviously, like, for the last 2 years, there have been Google X Samsung ads on the side of the bus stop. That have said, like, Google works best on Samsung.
Yeah. There's also, Pixel devices are not popular in comparison to Samsung devices. And especially most of the countries that we talk to.
Unless you live in my neighborhood and then you only see Pixel devices for some reason.
I think what's kind of weirder about it is, like, we've seen plenty of Samsung inside of Google events, too. Like, a lot of... Wasn't it like WatchOS from a few years ago they were showing on Samsung watches because there wasn't the Pixel Watch out yet? But it's this not even mentioning it as to, like, Galaxy series where they're just like demoing it and like very right into the camera. Like this is not a Pixel device. And this was the Edge, right?
Yeah.
For this show, it's
the S25 Ultra. That
it was the Ultra.
Oh, was it the Ultra? Yeah.
They talked about the Edge briefly at the end. I think Dieter talked about it. Famously, in the Google Pixel 9 event last year, the first half of the event was demoed Gemini on an S24 phone. Ultra.
That's the weirdest one to me. And even if it is like, okay, now you have your own Pixel phones, you'll use Pixel phones to demo new Android features, and then continue to use Samsung.
It's also crazy that they wouldn't demo it on a Pixel 8 and then be like, and that you thought that was the best of the best.
Yeah.
Here's our 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another explanation that I saw a lot of was Google is getting ahead of any antitrust sort of accusations by showing how rich and competitive the hardware landscape is, that they're surely not favoring their own Pixel devices because, look, we've shown so many Samsung ones. And then, of course, there was Dieter's section at the end highlighting like 8
Pixel
or 9 others.
has such little market share.
Yeah,
There's no chance that this is going to be a problem.
But, that is like another angle that I saw in my replies a lot.
Sure.
So, yeah, there's a lot of that. They also very clearly showed like the Android XR is launching on a Samsung headset, the Project Muhan thing. They very clearly show lots of other devices, but it caught my eye.
It is interesting considering Google's whole thing has been look at all your options, but most of the time they're like Samsung.
Yeah.
They probably just know that people recognize Samsung more than they recognize other brand names. So it is a strategic advantage to be able to demo Android features on devices that people have recognition with.
It just seems like an opportunity to make Pixel devices more recognized than they already are.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I guess the people watching this, would you argue 99% of the people watching the Android show
Probably have Pixel phones.
probably knows? Yeah, that's
Pixel?
at that point it's more of like the people watching this are probably, but
but I would still use it even if they know about it already. I would still use it, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Either way, that's something I had to bring up. But there's some other stuff. There's some new color themes, new physics in swiping away notifications. And
I like
tasking.
the physics.
Do you
and
want to
the
just go through
haptics.
like the different sections?
Sure.
Okay. We'll start with, they started with RCS updates. It was just kind of a little fun blurb that they had where there are now 1 billion RCS messages sent every day.
Thanks, Tim.
I was going to say that. I would love to know how many of those is because all the iPhones suddenly got updated. That's very funny. But then we moved on to Material 3 Expressive, which we talked about before. And obviously this got very leaked and we even got screenshots and stuff before from this. But it was nice to see a lot more videos of it in action. And it seems like the primary changes in Material 3 Expressive are really aligned around the expressive angle of it, where the physics are very different. They really talked about a lot of the snapping and the jiggle and all the stuff that all the windows will do on your phone. So when you're like pulling up a notification, you're pulling it to the right, but you decide not to dismiss it, it'll kind of like snap and kind of like bounce back.
Yeah.
And assuming the phones are fast enough to make sure this doesn't lag,
GPU.
it will be great.
You need high refresh rate to get the most out of your Material 3
Yes,
Expressive.
actually, yes. I would like to know more about Material 3 Expressive, and we had a briefing about this where I asked, like, do you have any more to share? Because they were just like, more color themes, it's more expressive, it has better physics, and that's all they said. And I would really like to know, like, okay, can you tell me everything else? Because you're saying that this is a generational update in UX, but you're not saying what else is new besides some dynamic physics stuff and some color. You say more colors. What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
I guess to an extent, Android has matured over the years, where in previous generations, there would be like a total overhaul on what it looked like and what it meant to be Android. It would go from flat to hollow, which is like glowing and like Tron-like, and then they'd try something else. And then they sort of have slowed down and landed on this more consistent, rough look for what Android is. So I guess it makes sense that they're not doing this enormous change, and it seems very subtle. It's physics and it's little buttons and circles and colors, but it also just kind of feels like we're spinning tires a little bit, just kind of tweaking.
I agree with you that it feels weird that they're saying it's like one of the biggest updates when it's meaningful. I think all of these things are really good, but it doesn't feel like the bigger thing was introducing Material U a few years ago, and like this is the really
Pixel
nice
6.
upgrade to that.
Yeah.
I do think all the like physics and stuff they're cool to see. I think they're actually super helpful for people who might not understand phone UI that well, because when things are a little more meaningful of where it snaps to, I'm sure every one of us have had a parent or a relative who are like, I just swiped something away and I don't know what it is. And now if it's a little harder to do that, or a little more obvious of when you're like accidentally moving something, or like you said, if something like wiggles, you're like, oh, that probably means an action's available here. How do I figure that out? That's a really, really simple way of making something more intuitive, which is like Android needs probably. They're the worst.
I saw something on Blue Sky this morning where someone was like, Material 3 Expressive is Android Senior Citizen Edition, because all the buttons are way bigger. Everything is a little bit harder to accidentally do. It's more obvious and in your face. The sections are more sectioned. I mean, that's something we talked about last week, is like in an email, you now have like sections for what's going on. You've got the compose window, you've got the keyboard section, you've got this section, and everything's like cut out and kind of floating. And that does help you delineate, like, where am I, on the phone.
Some people in our comments did not like that, apparently. Why would my email look like a chat log? It's like,
because people understand
that's what
chat.
email is.
I didn't think that was, I thought it was a great change.
Yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think the haptics is underrated. I've seen there's a couple devices in the past couple of years that have come out with like extremely clever little haptics things. I don't know if you know on Oppo phones, if you have a bunch of notifications and you hit clear all, it goes like, and you can feel all the notifications swipe away at once.
That's awesome.
Just like little things like that.
Yeah.
I want more of that built into Android.
Remember when Nothing made a huge deal about the fact that when you hit airplane mode, it like had a little animation of the plane like taking off?
Yeah.
They had a whole press release for that.
It's funny. Really cool haptics in the Android ecosystem is really funny though, because then when you get that phone with the terrible vibration motor or something, all of that just feels like garbage.
Yeah.
But I'm still happy they're making.
Yeah. So some more universal changes on that. They're going to have more customizable quick settings, and there's a subtly blurred background, which honestly kind of looks a little bit like the iOS update that we are anticipating, where everything's more Vision OS-like. They did have more like translucency in the Android OS with this update, which seemed interesting to me. They're adding a new live updates feature, which is the dynamic island live updates.
Yep.
When your phone's locked, it looks just like
Is it dynamic
iOS.
island or is it more like live activities?
live activities.
Yeah.
But dynamic island and live activities like play
Like merge
together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're waiting for an Uber or some ongoing action is happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They look almost exactly the same, which I'm okay with because it's a really great feature.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Copy
Sorry.
the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so funny like seeing all this when I just got the One UI 7 update and like it's very different but also confusing. I'm just trying to like get something to play and now like I have kind of like a live thing,
That
but it
looks like the live activities that Google showed.
it's to like the left side now and there's my thoughts really quickly on One UI 7 so far is I've actually really enjoyed it. It's just a little bit of getting used to things. And I think for a big like visual change, that's a really good thing to say. Like everyone needs their time to get used to it, but I'm not immediately hating it. So
yeah.
the glowing review for
Hopefully
One UI
a
7.
small learning curve because you don't want to change too much and have it take forever.
No,
Yeah.
but it is really funny, like seeing all this and being like, "Damn, there's all these cool things," and then my phone completely changed to something totally different.
Yeah.
And
Well, I mean, that update kind of looked very similar to the live activities
That
update
part
coming
did,
to
yeah.
this. So maybe there was some cross-pollination there. We're talking about Samsung developing things with Google. You know, maybe they were in there. Also, apparently, Material 3 Expressive is more battery efficient than Material U. Somehow. Which I'm down for.
Okay.
And is coming to Pixels later this year.
Yeah.
Yay. Which probably just means it's launching on the Pixel 10.
Yeah.
that's a very fair guess.
Yeah. But we'll probably see a beta in the next couple weeks, considering I/O is in 1 week.
Keeping my eye out for that.
Yeah, 6 days.
Everybody, if anybody sees the Android 16 beta with this stuff in it before I see it, tweet it at me because I want to install it on my Pixel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Wear OS 6 is coming out, which adds Material 3 Expressive as well, which is just kind of a visual refresh of Wear OS. Big buttons.
Big buttons.
Big buttons. Shape morphing elements, as they call it.
Yeah.
10% better battery life, which is always welcome, if that's true. They are also adding Gemini to the watch.
Yeah.
You know?
They added Gemini to all the things.
They added Gemini to all the things. That was actually a bigger...
The one thing they didn't add it to was their home products, but they went Gemini to the watch. Then they also went Gemini to Android Auto and
TV.
and Gemini to Android Google TV,
Isn't that ironic?
which is
We'll get there in a
great.
minute.
It deserves to be in all those places. If you bought a Google Home and it's still Google Assistant, that's the one place where I'm like, are they going to update those to Gemini or are those forever Google Assistant?
Which is the
And they'll
irony
have to-
because Google Assistant came out first on the first Google Home.
Yeah. So is it doomed? They have to buy another one with Gemini? That seems terrible.
Yeah.
But
I
you
don't,
can software update those.
it'll
things.
probably update it to it.
I hope so.
They'll just explode.
Yeah.
Our resident Pixel Watch user wants to say something.
Oh boy.
I'm so excited. It's going to be
For
so
which part?
good.
All of it?
Just the watch.
Your
The watch.
shape
The
morphing
watch.
elements just really perk
Yeah,
your
I'm
ears
excited
up,
for new shapes, new sounds.
Different colors.
It's going
New
to be great.
haptics.
It's
fun
gonna be so good.
buttons.
Fun buttons.
Honestly, it seems like it's a nice little upgrade for the watch.
Do
Yeah.
you trust Gemini on your watch, Mariah?
I trust nobody. It's not personal.
It's not Gemini or not Gemini.
Well, because at this moment, if you want to trigger Assistant on the watch, it's Google Assistant on the watch. So if you have a phone assistant and a watch assistant that are two different assistants with different capabilities, that's annoying.
And then you got Bixby on the, you know.
Yeah.
you also got
So
Bixby.
at least having Gemini be as many places as possible makes sense. I really do wonder though about Google Homes.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Okay, I'm very excited that it is coming to Google TV, that Gemini is coming to Google TV. There is actually a lot of natural language use cases with Google TV that make tons of sense, where you can say, show me a movie and then just describe the type of movie you want to see.
Yeah.
Assuming it works, could be cool.
Not only that, but more importantly, which freaking platform it's on. Like,
Yes.
because like Google TV has all the different platforms integrated into it, you don't have to be like, sometimes we pick the movie and then I have to Google what streaming
platform?
service it's
Well,
on.
when the Chromecast with Google TV first came out, that was probably the best
I
feature.
agree, yeah.
Is that you can say the movie and it shows you where you can watch it.
That's ideal.
It's so ideal.
Yeah.
So that's really nice. You can ask for a type of movie that you want to watch. You can also like look up more info about certain characters. You can ask just Gemini random questions where it will pull up web info. So it kind of makes your TV this like catch-all portal where you can watch content and also sort of surf the web with your voice in a way, which is going to be useful for kids, obviously, because they're just going to have a million questions about Coco Melon.
Hey, Coco.
You know.
Why is it
How do
always
I tell my
Coco?
TV to
always
ban
Coco.
Coco Melon? Yeah. But I think the worst part about smart TVs is controlling them. So
Yeah.
the more we can use our voice in a better way than just like finding the microphone icon, pressing the microphone icon, and then trying to get it to actually listen to you, like
Yeah.
being able to control it a bit more should make smart TVs a better
Possibly a
experience.
hot take, but Google's ecosystem of like other stuff that's running on Android, like Google TV, is like so much better than Apple TV, in my opinion.
I don't use Apple TV, and I agree with you.
The remote is the worst thing in history, and even the new remote is like better, but not that much better.
Yeah, from an F to a C minus.
Yeah, pretty much. It's also coming to cars, which is going to be really useful because it can read things back to you. You can send things back. You can just do Gemini Live in the car, which is very...
Whoa.
I kind of hate
Interesting.
myself for this, but I really like Gemini Live now.
Welcome to the train, brother.
Dude.
I love Gemini Live. I've been talking to it a lot.
Me too.
And if I just like wanted to Google something and probably will have a follow-up question or two, I just default to Gemini Live now because I'll just think of my question and then just keep talking.
Yeah.
Versus having to go, hey, G, again, and then phrase a new question about the thing I asked about before. It's just better.
I just want to give this example. So I was biking somewhere 2 days ago and my chain came off and I was like panicking and I was like, I have no idea how to get this chain back on my bike. And instead of, Googling a step-by-step guide that I would be like guided to WikiHow or whatever, it just told me and it was like, most bikes have this spoke thing. You just pull back on it. And I just did. And then it worked. And I was like,
And it's so funny that you mentioned WikiHow because they were getting all the traffic from that query before.
I know.
And now it's just Google telling you the answer, which is a success for the user because I got the answer. But
it destroys
that's a whole
the
rabbit
internet.
hole of
Yeah, we talked about that before. Like, who's going to write the content?
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's a whole nother thing.
Can I say something really quick?
Please.
Did you notice that they said coming to Android Auto or cars with Google built in?
Which is the Polestar.
But so it used to be Android Automotive was
right.
a car that specifically had the UI running Android versus
Right.
your phone running Android.
Yeah.
I do agree that that's like a little confusing, but I don't know why cars with Google built in sounds worse.
It doesn't roll off the tongue. It's
No.
horribly branded, but it is a very useful feature. We're testing a Cadillac Lyric right now that has Google built in.
Yeah.
Has
Oh,
a
really?
Play Store. You can just download Spotify right in there, download Waze. It shows up in the car. It's all built in. Those cars all have Google Assistant right now. Throw Gemini in there too. Yes, please.
Wait, that brand new car has Google Assistant?
Yeah,
It'll probably be updated to Gemini.
exactly. That's
IO
what. Yeah,
launches.
it'll be in. And Android, obviously, Android Auto is beaming from your phone to the car. That will obviously get the new Gemini as well. So it's all useful.
This is everything I ever wanted. Yeah. Also, Gemini's coming to Android XR, which we already knew. I don't know why they showed that again.
Yeah.
And it seems like at the end of it, they said like didn't they like make a little tease to showing off
The
XR?
glasses, they did.
They showed him putting on glasses, but
Yeah.
then the video they showed was what we saw in Project Muhan. So-
Right.
yeah.
At the very, very end, they teased a pair of glasses, which I guess they haven't ever actually shown yet.
They
which- Have they shown the
Yeah,
glasses?
there was a whole section where there was like a Google person like using the glasses to talk to her grandma in a different language or
so
something.
they used him putting the shades on to signify that there's more coming on that front.
Yeah.
And then that was it. So we don't know what more is, but
We've
they're gonna
seen
keep
some
talking
weird
about it.
glasses stuff in the past. I don't know if we've seen like a specific model or anything. The Samsung event had the timeline where it showed glasses next to Muhan and also next to a triple folding device.
Google has shown actual glasses off, though.
Oh,
Have they? I know they did the thing where all the reporters got to go to it, but they weren't allowed to like show photos or anything.
That was Muhan. That was like an early.
I think that was
no, because we were the
read
first people who saw Muhan, and that was before that.
I read about there's people who did demos of the glasses as well.
It was in
And
like
they couldn't-
December.
They
I
couldn't
think.
show photos or videos of it, but they could describe it to people.
Oh, I feel like I haven't even.
It's very confusing. The way they seem to be rolling this out seems really confusing. But we were the first people to see or show Muhan at least.
Well, there were reports that the new Google glasses are going to be at I/O and that reporters are going to be able to test them. I will be there, so I'll give you my hot takes.
We shall see if they let you record it. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
If we can break your embargo,
Yeah.
let us know.
Google also made a Find My hub. Basically.
Yeah. So they had one. They had Find My Device.
Yeah.
But they updated it.
They updated it. I mean, we all know, or you've probably seen what iPhones have, which is this hub where you can find my friends, find my devices, find all AirTags all in one place, basically. And that's what they put together here. So you can share all of your contacts, locations. You can find these in one place. You can also find any of the things that are in your devices, like trackers, Chipolo cards, whatever it is. And it's all in one place. And that's nice and convenient.
But it's cool because you can also do Find My for your friends, which you could name Find My Friends, but that's already taken.
That's taken. Yeah.
So it's
Find My with friends built in.
yeah.
Find
Or
My
friends with
Google.
Find My built in.
Find My built in.
Find My Google friends.
Find My Google Friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I think Google is really trying to mirror Apple's ecosystem, and they're finally getting to that point. The main problem for them right now is nobody wants a Chromebook, and that's really the main problem.
Is that the main
They've got pretty much everything else, and they have arguably more because they have
guess
stuff in the
worldwide.
cars because Apple never launched their built-in CarPlay thing.
Yeah,
that they
but
talked about.
CarPlay is so popular.
Yeah,
Like Apple, even without launching the built-in CarPlay thing, is still on a lot of people's car screens. Either way, this is definitely an effort to sort of match what Apple's doing there.
I did like there was one, and I don't use Find My Friends, so I don't know if this is available in it, but it was like you could share your tracking for
With the
a
airline.
time limit too. So it could be like,
Oh.
because like maybe I don't want someone tracking me all the time, but I want them to make sure I get home okay. So it could be like share my location for 1 hour.
which they have on.
Do they have
iPhones
that
as
on
well.
there?
Yeah,
Great idea.
Yeah, they're just copying all of the stuff, which is
Keep
great.
copying, yeah.
It's good that they're doing
People
it.
use it.
Also, with the Find My stuff, they announced some collaborations with some airlines. They didn't say what airlines it was, but they said that you could share your Find My tags and Find My devices with the airline, so it was easy
never.
for them to find your bag.
Never.
Which I'm never doing.
Never doing that.
I agree with you because they're going to lie to you,
Yes.
and you have the info. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would the airline should already know where my bags are because they tag everything and scan it every time.
Yeah.
But if they somehow lose it, then I have the information of where GPS is. I'm not sharing that with anybody.
And also, why do I want? I'm sure there's some sort of cutoff for it, but why do I want the potential of United knowing where my bag is at all times? Now it knows where I live. Now it knows where it's been to. Like you do not need to know that, United.
Yeah. And
Chill
they announced a collaboration with a couple of actual suitcase partners that are going to have Android's Find My built in as well. So Google I/O is supposed to mean like in out, right? You know, it's kind of like the
Input,
I/O,
output,
input
yeah.
output. Yeah.
Facts.
I'm going to be in and out because I'm only there for 1 day.
So you're gonna go to In-N-Out.
I'm going to go to In-N-Out. Oh, wait. Google In-N-Out.
Google In and Out.
That's the collab we want.
I thought it was Googlio the whole time.
Googlio?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I can't believe no one corrected me. I've been saying Googlio around the office for years.
Well, you know what? Next week, I'm going to say it's the Googlio podcast.
Make sure you watch our Googlio coverage and then shortly after our Wowadika coverage.
What would it get?
Get subscribed. See you soon.
What would it get?
Don't miss it.